Good morning. Let me straighten out my hair. It's first thing in the morning and I just had some coffee and yeah, it's mostly decaf. I made a blend a while ago. But I have some energy. Let's talk about quite a few things. Let's talk about what's going on in my personal life, in the world, and in the United States. So first of all, in my personal life, it is July 20th. Tomorrow morning I go and I compete in the Show Me State Games martial arts competition. Show Me State Games has been going on for a couple weeks. It's kind of like the state version of the Olympics. It's all amateur athletics and different age groups. So tomorrow I'll be doing weapons, kata forms, they're called kata in Japanese, and sparring. My battle plan is for empty hand forms. I'm going to do Hungar form called Fuk Fu, Subdue Tiger, but I'm going to do the opening portion, Qigong section of Gongji, eye pattern. If you know anything about Hungar, the Gongji Fuk Fu was a very long form, and the first part was called Gongji, second part was called Fuk Fu, and oftentimes in Hungar they're taught a Gongji first and then Fuk Fu later, which makes it easier to teach, and you can sort of grade it out and teach them things in between so that students get more competent. For weapons, I'm going to do a double butterfly sword form that I developed probably sometime in the 90s or early 2000s when I was in grad school, and had studied all these different kung fu styles, and I said I need to make a double weapons master set. It can be done with double sticks, double swords, double butterfly swords. It can be done empty-handed, and even with a long weapon like a staff with some modification. All right. So I've been doing both forms for decades, and I feel very confident with them, and I've been practicing them different ways. Sparring, I'm just going to spar. I'm going to see how I do. My general plan is use the front leg and front hand as much as possible, because what I noticed last year was everybody is basically using a back leg roundhouse kick or possibly a back leg front kick. I think there was one guy using his front leg, and lots of reverse punches. So it looks to me like the more mobile Bill Wallace style or modern operating from a bladed stance is a little less popular here, and I think if judging is able to pick up on it, that might help me. Being a shorter fighter and an older fighter, I think the bladed front leg forward kind of Jeet Kune Do style approach is more efficient and can compensate for a lack of reach, especially if everybody is kicking off the back leg. That's the general plan. I want to be a good sportsman. I think I got to remind myself to ki when I score. But if someone fouls me, I'll have to hit them hard back. So a little bit about me. When I competed, one of the harder things about point sparring was not knocking people out. I could often get disqualified for excessive force. So we'll take that how it goes. Again, I want to be a good sportsman. I want to get out there and do my best. To me, this is a proof of concept. After 20 years, almost 20 years layoff, can I go back and do this? My division will be black belt age 35 and above. They don't have a 40 or a 50 as I can tell, so that makes things a little bit harder, but then harder is also challenging, and that's what I'm looking for. Now, let's move on to other topics. Today, I'm a Freemason, and so I decided to join the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, and today begins a 3-day what they call reunion or valley, and this one is being done remotely online, and it's part of my study process and initiation into the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. So it's like 3 days of studying, watching various videos and I guess instructional materials, and giving reaction, and it's like an online university. So Saturday is going to be a little pinched because after competing in the morning, I shoot online. But my study begins today. So let's hope that goes well. Now, what's going on in the world and in the country? I watched the entire open congressional session on UAPs, where they listened to three people. Two of them, I remember the names, David Grush and Richard Fravor, the Commander Fravor of the Tic Tac incident, and the other fellow whose name eludes me also had a UFO encounter, or several UFO encounters during his Navy pilot career, and later formed an organization to keep track of things like that for aeronautic safety. It was really interesting because the first elected official to talk immediately began to use this to attack the Biden administration, and from what one of the members of the bipartisan committee said, everybody had been instructed to make this bipartisan, not make this a party issue. The rest of them pretty much behaved, and it was interesting because, Matt Gaetz and AOC were on the same side of an issue and actually, used their office to do their job, which is ask important questions. And this information isn't anything those of us who have deeply studied it, we know most of what's going on because oftentimes they're just repeating things they've said on podcasts. But, there were little more details given that I enjoyed. I enjoyed watching our elected officials actually cooperate, like actually ask good, pertinent questions and not use everything as an opportunity to bash the other party. We need more of that. And I was stricken by that. I was taken by that. And this made me think, all right, well, as I watch this, let's talk about some of the benefits that congressional investigation and societal investigation of the UFO UAP topic. Let's talk about some hidden benefits or some lesser well-known benefits, and the first of which is this could become a bipartisan issue if more politicians in Congress and in the Senate begin talking to each other about this and forming bipartisan commissions. They start to have personal communication with each other and perhaps demonize each other less, and that open communication may in fact bleed onto or leak onto or grow like a garden onto other issues and other aspects of politics, a uniting issue. That's fantastic, okay? Secondly, there are different ways to approach this issue that can support existing political initiatives on both sides of the aisle. And that's this. Number one, suppose you're a very classical conservative, not the, right-wing, hyper-racist, fascist neo-Nazis that are more in favor now, especially with the Trumpists. Let's say you're kind of more of a classical, small government, control governmental spending type of Republican. Well, first of all, this appears to have a gigantic black budget and is rife with abuse of governmental funds. Tackling this issue may help open up lines of inquiry, may give you incentives to subpoena people, and you may expose those black budgets and governmental creep and extra-governmental creep, and thereby reduce governmental spending. That's fantastic. This is an excuse to audit many things, okay, including the military-industrial complex, the intelligence community, and more importantly, many governmental contractors. Now, that's another issue. Let's say you have a huge problem with a military-industrial complex to include non-governmental entities, Raytheon, Northrop, and so on and so forth. I noticed AOC began to hit on that, and I thought that was fantastic. Kudos, AOC. You're a fantastic elected official. I'm glad we have you. You can now start taking some of these defense contractors and audit them and question them and subpoena them and grill them about this topic, and I do not doubt that we will expose other areas of corruption and favoritism within their interaction. I mean, I don't think if this exists, if we have recovered spacecraft and aliens and technology that we're attempting to reverse engineer, or perhaps have successfully reverse engineered, I doubt that this was an open bid process. All right, so go at it. You get a crack at these big, gigantic companies that Eisenhower warned us about, and maybe usurping or have usurped democracy and the rule of law and so on and so forth. That's fantastic. Okay, let's say you're not a traditionally conservative, small government, control governmental spending type of person, and you want more money for social spending. Well, you can actually, in a bipartisan way, connect with the small government people and expose this black budget, reduce the money being channeled into these, I consider illegitimate, non-transparent wells, let's call them black holes, and instead free it up for social spending. And if you, for example, if the Republicans are like, hey, we got to cut this government spending, and here's like $3 billion, $4 billion, $10 billion going into this UFO-related black hole, black budget, special access programs, and you cut $10 billion, right? And you help them do it. You may be able to negotiate, hey, let's take $3 billion, $5 billion, and bring it towards these social programs. And give them something, they like to advocate for veterans and strong military. Just be like, hey, we could increase veterans benefits. I know I'd appreciate it. Shameless plug. But although I do think Democrats tend to increase veterans benefits, whereas Republicans tend to increase military spending. But you see how there is now a negotiated process. You can do budgeting things with this, all right? Secondarily, let's say that you want this government to move in the education system. I see a lot of problems in our education system where they're trying to make it easier to give government funds and waivers to private schools. Many of these private schools are very religious. They have religious indoctrination, which I think, governmental money for that may be seen as crossing the line between church and state. You could be like, well, actually, now that we know that all these technologies exist and they need to be reverse engineered, you can actually argue for more governmental support of scientific education and moving away from private schools who don't have an awesome track record with science, technology, and many of them don't even teach evolution and things like that. So we need to understand more about evolution if we actually uncover alien bodies, right? Alien biologies. So that's one aspect where we can do that. And same thing, scientific spending. For example, if you are more of a libertarian, okay, attacking the probably unfair acquisition of power and control and access to these things by certain arms industries and sequestering it away from the benefit of humankind, guess what? You can say, no, this belongs out in the open source. You can join the small government people and the Democrats that are willing to work with the small government people to reduce this black budget and take this body of knowledge and give it out to researchers, okay? Say you want the U.S. to be less militaristic and more of a cooperative relationship with foreign entities, the United States can, via our lawmakers, can encourage more diplomatic relations with other nations that are looking into this or have had experiences, because this is truly a global phenomena. It's happened in Brazil, for example. It must be happening in China and Russia, and right now we have no communication with Russia. Maybe we have some diplomatic relations, and we have poor communication with China, which is growing, advancing in technology, advancing in its economy and its global reach. And we don't have to fight a war with these people. Maybe if we approach them with this idea that, look, it is now inarguable that there are alien entities, possibly from outside of our planet, but maybe even hidden within our planet, that are different than us, that do not share our goals and do not share our psychology and have advanced technology that could devastate us. We need to cooperate on this issue. We need to share our knowledge. We need to pool our great minds, our research, and we need to build a less belligerent world order, you could call it, although many will call that sinister, but you could call it a world community, a world communication. All right, all of these are beneficial to our country. Okay, and I'm kind of this is extemporaneous. I didn't rehearse this. I have no script, but as I reach the end of this, okay, folks, this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity to improve our country, our economy, our relations with the rest of the world, our relations between our often fractioned political and cultural parties and clusters of people in our country, our communities, let's say. We shouldn't squander this. We should actually talk to our elected officials and ask for more on this issue. Man, if I had the support, if I thought I could go anywhere with this, I would run for public office on this issue and be like, look, this is turning out to be something. Something was there all along, as many of us suspected, and let us capitalize on it. Let us use it, okay? Let us leverage it into all aspects of our economy. For example, if I'm an independent political candidate and I say I'm interested in this UFO issue because they obviously have access to some incredible power generation to make this happen, and it is of a high level and appears to be non-polluting, we need to pursue this to protect our environment. But we also need to pursue this to help poverty alleviation. But we also need to pursue this because of the incredible military advantage it can give us and make us secure, and so on and so forth, right? We need to pursue this as a unifying catalyst on our society to make us less divided and less angry and contentious with each other. We need to pursue this to make us better global neighbors and to have better, more benevolent relationships with our global neighbors. That's why you should vote for me, all right? And then on individual issues, being an independent, I would, for example, often, pick and choose. I would compromise. I would synthesize a different type of overall strategy than simply saying I will be Democrat or I will be Republican. All right, so those are all food for thought. I hope you all enjoyed that, and you all have a wonderful day.